Battle of the Challenges podcast with Vincent Cloud, more Rivals 3 pre-show. Perhaps this is the bonus features that were not included with the original Rivals 3 pre-show that I did with Dave. So, first of all, I want to talk about the cast absence. The cast that are actually absent from this season. The third installment of the Rivals trilogy. Obviously, one of the bigger names missing this time around is CT. CT, who, when he came back, his big return to the Challenge series was in Rivals 1. And no doubt about it. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that he really helped get the viewership in that season. Not to mention the second season, which he again came back for. And he's not in this third installment. It might be because... I mean, I think I heard something about him wanting to retire, or that he did retire. I know that he came back for a cameo appearance, if you will, in Battle of the Bloodlines. And even then, on camera, he was saying, like, oh, I was kind of nervous coming back here and stuff like that. And, you know, it could be possible. I mean, the last time he appeared on a challenge, he was with his ex for Battle of the Exes 2, and that's where she fell ill and she had to leave, and, you know, we all know that she eventually passed away, and who knows, maybe that really had an effect on him, and maybe in a way he feels like he should move on from this, and maybe not, who knows, maybe he will eventually return. I mean, the guy moves the needle, so to speak, like, he really gets people excited about the show, but, you know, he's not in this installment, and, you know, the other absentee cast member is Cara Maria. Now, Cara Maria, for both Rivals 1 and Rivals 2, she was in both finals, and she would always be kind of challenging the assumed winner. You know, the bigger female powerhouse, her and her partner would face them. In Rivals 1, she was with Laurel. Great burgeoning friendship. I mean, like, you know, this is, we all know from Free Agents, like, they were really close at that season, you know, and then they fell apart as the season progressed, which really shouldn't shock anybody, because her and Laurel didn't get along in Cutthroat, which is why they were paired in Rivals 1, and even then, it was a very slow partnership. You know, I think it almost took the entire season for them to really have each other's backs. And, you know, Rivals 2, Cara Maria comes back as a replacement. Cook's partner took off, had to leave, and Cara Maria came back. And true, I kind of mentioned this before, how Cara Maria kind of had her worst season, probably the worst season of her career in Rivals 2. I mean, not to say that she wasn't good, but she definitely had probably, you know, like, there was a lot of things with her swimming, you know, and you know, people picked on her, well, like they always do. But, like, I remember when she showed up and no one clapped, you know, that was so awkward and, like, just like, well, what the heck, you know? I thought she was an established veteran at this point. But, yeah, she was still given some disrespect there. But, like I said, I mean, she is the chick, she is the woman who challenges the predisposed, no, that's not the word, the assumed winner. In Rivals 1, it was Evelyn and Paula. In Rivals 2, it was Emily and Paula. And so Cara Maria has always been there to really kind of challenge the top-tier woman, the assumed champion of that season. But, you know, she's not in this one because she currently won. I mean, she won the previous season, Battle of the Bloodlines. If you followed that season at all or anything outside of that, she really got a lot of shit for... not necessarily extramarital things, but, you know, just kind of going outside the relationship that she's had. That is a very, you know, her relationship with Abram, which has really been kind of a big part of her challenge career, you know, Cutthroat. You know, he was even mentioned in Rivals 1 and whatever. But anyways, she just was not ready to come back, which we all know would have been paired with Johnny Bananas, because they have a huge rivalry with each other, but she wasn't ready to come back, so hence she's not in this season. You know, that kind of sucks. You kind of want her there, even though she, you know, who would want to be paired up with Bananas? I mean, oh, well, okay, he's a good performer, sure, I'll give you that. But, and then thirdly, We don't have a Paula. Now, Paula, Rivals 1 and Rivals 2, I would say, and I would argue this point, that she was booked to win. Meaning producers paired her up with arguably the strongest female competitors of that season. First, Evelyn, and then Emily. Both rivalries were really kind of just like, I guess they didn't like each other. Like, her and Evelyn, they were just always on the opposite sides of the alliance. Paula was always kind of like the groupie of the JEK alliance, where Evelyn always fought against the JEK. Not necessarily against Paula. I don't think she's ever had anything quite against Paula at all. But, the producers are like, hey, Paula, she's got the, when it came to Rivals 1, they were like, Paula, she's never won. And, like, people even say that to her. They come up to the street, they're like, Paula, what's up with the, what's up with that? You never win. We think you're funny and stuff. You've really grown quite comfortable in the role of a challenger. She gives great little confessional quips and stuff like that. She's very funny. She's very witty. She's really grown, like I said, grown comfortable into that. And it's kind of, she slowly became a staple of the challenges. So in Rivals 1, she's paired with Evelyn. And they, unsurprisingly, dominated that season. Because Evelyn's just amazing, and maybe Paula just needed that one partner. But who knows? They were also covered politically. Evelyn and Wes and Nehemiah were also paired with Evan and Kenny. And then, of course, Paula's always been in that group. So, like, they kind of had a sheer shot to the final. And sure, they had to work for it. They won plenty of missions leading up to that point, And then you get to Rivals 2, and she's paired with Emily. Now, that is even that's even more of a stretch by the producers. But they give Paula, who is again really funny and almost like an icon of the challenges, the female challengers, and they give her Emily. And where does this stem from necessarily? They had Cutthroat, and I think Emily took Paula out personally, and then on Battle of the X's 1, they went against each other once more. And sure, maybe they could have said, like, oh, Emily felt wrong that Paula was hooking up with Ty, who was Emily's ex on that season and shit. But, I don't know. Either way, Paula was paired up with, yet again, the strongest female competitor of that season. And to me, that's just producers saying, hey, we like Paula, people like Paula, she's funny, she's a natural star, and why not have her throughout the entire season, So this was kind of like just another, it was the same thing. And it kind of gets into the very, I don't know, I tend to think that there's not a lot of strong female competitors in the season lately. Now, that's not being, I don't know, I don't think it's being sexist or anything, but, it's just, there's not a lot of strong competitors. I don't want to go and name the list of all the other females and, like, disrespect them or anything. But, like, if you think about it, like, who were the stars? Who were the, like, alpha females of that group? You put Paula in that, and you're good to go. You have a great season because Paula's going to say something, some sort of sound bite that could go into the trailers, that can help, that can promote the show and shit. So why not put Paula with that group? So, now that she's not here in Rivals 3, she's since retired, and I guess she's married and stuff like that. So, now, it's kind of open, It's there's no longer producers saying, like, oh my god, like, we need Paula to win this season. Instead, there's no all-female groups. Again, Rivals 3, it's a co-ed season. So, no Paula. So every girl can breathe a sigh of relief where they're like, well, Paula's not going to win this season because they didn't pair her with the slam dunk challenger, So that's kind of good. That really opens up the field for everyone else. It really lets everyone else have a chance. So, speaking of finals, though, where Paula is, almost guaranteed the win, recently there was a report of a helicopter crash that was filming the final for Rivals 3. Really sad, tragic. But what was reported was that they were actually in Argentina. Now, if you know from Rivals 1 season finale, that's where they had their big finale. And you know, Rivals 1 and 2, in my opinion, had the best season finales. This was the birth of the 2-day final in Rivals 1. And in Rivals 2, it was, similar, I suppose, but they didn't have to stay all night on fucking rocks. They got to sleep in a beautiful yacht. How great is that? But in Rivals 2, they got really creative with the way it ran. Like, they had to run around the island, and every time they would, I don't know. It was very colorful, very energetic, very creative, and I really enjoyed it. So, anyways, this helicopter, it goes down in Argentina while filming. So that means that Rivals 3 producers, they wanted to kind of harken back to that glorious first finale of Rivals, which is fine, but it kind of makes me think about how producers reused the Turkey house, the house in Turkey, when they made Battle of the Bloodlines, because in Battle of the Seasons 2, 2012, they used that exact same house. I mean, that I found that funny. I found that very telling of producers, which is cheap. I mean, that's kind of the appeal, not to viewing the show, but by commentating on it, doing a podcast on it, where I could be like, see, the producers, they're cheap as hell, they have to reuse, they're barely hanging on to the ratings, which is true. This Rivals 3 was rushed into production, and we were told about it, I think, even before Battle of the Bloodlines even aired, even premiered. And I kind of assumed it was because, ratings, they're always kind of dipping down. You're always wondering, is the challenge going to get renewed? We never know. And Battle of the Bloodlines, I mean, that really, it wasn't a complete disaster, but it was pretty low. It was really low ratings. So now they have Rivals 3 coming up, and they're like, hey, both Rivals were hits. Let's put them in there, despite that we don't have CT. The probably our biggest star we've ever had on the show. So anyways, they're back in Argentina, hopefully maybe they're just trying to recreate that same magic, and who knows, maybe they're running in the same goddamn course. That would be really bizarre. That would be totally bizarre. And speaking of the finals, and going back to Argentina, are we, and I'm not begging to get spoilers at all, but this is a little flight of fancy where I'm like, are we gonna be privy to another Bananas Wes match in the finals? Rivals 1, it was Bananas and Tyler versus Wes and Kenny. In Rivals 2, it was Bananas and Frank versus Wes and CT. I mean, is it possible to have that rematch? That'd be great. Who doesn't want these two titans of the series to go head-to-head once again? And really, if there's ever a Rivals 4, which without a doubt they can bring back, that's the genius part about the Rivals themes, that you could always bring it back, because people will never get along for too long, And so Bananas and Wes, they are probably the biggest rivalry to this date that have yet to be coupled together, And maybe it's because it's just more entertaining to see them work against each other than to work with each other. I mean, I can't even imagine that. I really couldn't, because Bananas, I say they hate each other. I actually say Bananas hates Wes. Wes is just like, yeah, Bananas is annoying, and like, who wants him around? But, if Bananas loses his shit, he loses his cool with Wes nearly every time. Rivals 1, they had to work together because his boy Kenny was paired with Wes. That really helped Wes get to the final. In Rivals 2, I'm sure Bananas and Frank wanted CT and Wes out of there, but unfortunately, Rivals 2, the producers, they changed the voting to that the females decide what males go against each other, and and the males decide what females go against each other. So to me, that was like producers trying to save either CT and Wes from going in so early, or Bananas and Frank from going in so early, So, and this time it's different, like I said. again, focusing on the finals aspect of these the rival series, we should probably expect the payout to be way bigger this time. Now, every series, they're just like, get ready for the biggest payout ever and stuff, like $350,000 for the winners and stuff. Now, that's so misleading. If you actually break down the numbers, Rivals 1 and Rivals 2, I think it's like $100,000 for the winners of Rivals 1, for both the guys and the girls. And what that really translates to is that when Johnny Bananas and Tyler won, they split that $100,000. So they got $50,000 each. Not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. And then Rivals 2, it was a slightly bigger, I think it was like $120,000. So when Wes and CT won, they got they got $60,000 each. So, a little bit, they're up in the ante for the sequel. Great, But now with this third one, since there are now co-ed pairings, one guy and one girl will win $125,000 each. This is going to be a huge payout, and in fact, Free Agents has been about $125,000 each, and so is Bloodline, so is Battle of the Exes too. So it really pays to get to the final in this third installment of Rivals. And the other thing to expect is that the third place winners, or if you get to the final and you're in third place, expect not to get any money at all. And the other thing is, don't expect the third place winners to even be at that final finish line. In Rivals 1, Leroy and Mike, they ended up DQing. They couldn't even finish it. And then on the girls' side of it, it was Jen and Mandy. They got DQ'd too. They were so slow. It was getting so dark, and producers like, hey, get this. We actually care about your well-being, so we're going to cut you off we're going to cut you off the final. So they had to leave. And then in Rivals 2, the third place people on day one, if you got third place, you were out of it. And then only the first and second place finishers of day one got to go into day two. Probably for the money, for financial reasons. Producers are like, we don't want to pay out everything and shit like that. So, but in Rivals 2, for the guys, it was Jordan and Marlon. They couldn't get into day two, and then Camilla and Jemmy, they couldn't get into day two. So are we to think that the same thing could happen this season? I would say maybe not being cut off, maybe just like, again, in Rivals 1, if you get third place, you get nothing, which is fine. I actually don't mind that. I actually think that it just ratchets up the tension just a little bit more, instead of having a third place team just kind of like, all right, we could go at a snail's pace, but we're still going to make some money. No, that's not good motivation, and that's not very fun to watch either. The other thing that we probably should take of note, again, this is kind of like bonus shit that I wanted to mention in the first Rivals, but Dave cut me off, and sometimes I don't try and like dip back into something I wanted to say just so we could save the pace, just not to kill the momentum and shit. But I'm mentioning it here now. And that's not just, ripping on Dave, saying, like, yeah, he cut me off and, the podcast had to suffer. No, not at all. Because, I know for a fact I cut Dave off all the time. But this little chunk is what we have to kind of worry about. It could be on the horizon of things that we got to worry about, is the twist. The elimination twist especially. Now, if you've been paying attention at all, sure, every season has a twist of some sort for the most part, but since Free Agents, every season has had this huge twist to the game that's head-scratching, I would want to say. That's infuriating sometimes. That's annoying. Just think about it. Free Agents, it had that stupid, like, oh, it's luck. You never quite know who you're going to go against and stuff, which really kind of, I don't know. I go back and forth about it, but for the most part, I just didn't really care for it. I just felt like the idea was cool because it was new, but it also went against the grain of every other season that's come before it, where like who's going to go against who. You had to work hard politically to get these two in a fucking cage together, or a jungle, or a pit, or elimination together, to get rid of one of them, And Free Agents was like, no, not this time. It's all luck with the kill card and stuff like that. And then following Free Agents, you had Battle of the Exes 2, where like even if you were eliminated in the Dome, you had a second shot at coming back. You went into exile, as it was called, and that only lived online. It was kind of cool, because you're like, oh wait, you got to go on the website and see what Bananas and Nani are doing in the exile house and stuff, and then you see them go against other losers of the Dome just to get back into the house. Now, I mean, personally, I thought it was kind of botched because eventually producers were like, no, this is wrong. Our star Bananas is online and he's not on the show. We're not getting the ratings we want or whatever. So they brought him back early, I felt, extremely early, and then they just dropped the whole exile thing. So when everyone else who got exiled after that, they didn't get a second shot. It was completely ridiculous. And by say anyone else, I only mean Wes. And you might be like, wait a minute, didn't Wes have a partner in Battle of the Exes too? Yeah, he had Teresa. But and even Teresa got a second chance at that last minute when Leroy's partner Naya got all handsy with Jordan, very ironically, and she got booted out. And then instead of giving Wes and Teresa their rightful second shot at elimination, they were just like, just bring Teresa in for Leroy because they banged once on Rivals 2. And that's what they decided to go with. Because, like I've said before, producers love Leroy. They just think he is the best thing ever. All right, so and then in Battle of the Bloodlines, it was almost kind of worse because you couldn't, if you go into elimination round and you have your Bloodlight partner and then that partner gets eliminated, you go home too. You didn't even get to fight for your right to stay in. It was ridiculous. It sounded cool at the beginning, but like all these elimination twists since Free Agents, it just kind of became more and more infuriating. So now, are we to expect a possible twist again in this season? I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I'm curious if the producers are willing to fuck with probably their best series they've had in a long time. These do get viewerships because the idea is just so fucking cool. They're like, what? Rivalry? What is that? Frenemies? What is that? No other competitive series out there, reality competitive series, have done this before. It's gold. It's a genius idea. So I'm wondering if not only would they fuck with the format or eliminations or whatever, but also how could they do it? And really, I mean, given the promotions and stuff, and like if you go on the website, no one says like, expect the craziest twist you've ever heard of, So maybe producers are gonna try and stay away from that this season, I mean, I've said series as a whole has gone through 3 eras: the Golden Age, the JEK Dynasty, and now the Twist era. But I'll go into that a little bit more in detail later on. But check out the other pre-show, the original Rivals 3 pre-show that I did with Dave. Very good. We go, we list all the competitors and their partnerships and why they're even thrown together. And I guess that's about it. Like, subscribe. This is a weekly podcast. If you're paying, because some of you might be like, where's Rivals 1 episode 4? Well, some things fell through with Scott. I was a little busy, so I'm just like, God dang it, I have to make an episode. So this was my idea. I was like, let's talk a little bit more about Rivals 3. A little bit, a little bit shit that I didn't talk about before. Comment if you want. I'm really bad at getting back at people, but you put your thoughts out there, and other people will react to them, or just rub their chin saying like, yeah, good point, or scratch their heads like, what the fuck are you talking about? But this is Vincent Cloud. This is